Hi, John McElroy here, talking all things automotive, and today let's talk about tariffs on imported cars, because President Trump is talking all about tariffs, but now he also has the VAT in his crosshairs. The VAT is a value-added tax. In some places they call it a consumption tax, and Trump is going after it because the VAT helps countries that export cars and hurts any cars that they might import from the U.S. Now, Trump's not the first one to talk about it. This has been talked about for decades. Even so, most people don't know anything about a VAT, so let me go through a simple explanation. Most countries in Europe use a VAT, so does Japan and South Korea and China and other countries, but not the United States. The U.S. uses a sales tax, and here's the difference. With the sales tax, a tax is added every time something is sold. So to use an automotive example, let's say a supplier buys steel. They pay a sales tax on that. Then they make something from that steel, like a coil spring. And then they sell that to an automaker, and there's a sales tax on that. And then after an automaker buys all the materials and components it needs to make a car, it sells the car, and there's a tax on that. A VAT is kind of like a sales tax, but it's different. In manufacturing a product, like a car, a VAT gets added at each stage of production. But unlike a sales tax, it's not for the total value of the product. It's only a tax on the value that was added. So, for example, a supplier buys raw materials, like steel, and they pay a VAT on that. Then they add value of their own, like twisting that into a coil spring. And then they sell it to a car company, and a VAT is added, but only for the value that the supplier added, the value of twisting that steel into a coil spring. Moreover, the supplier then gets to subtract the VAT that it paid when it bought the steel. So it's not paying a tax on top of a tax on top of a tax. When the automaker gets all the parts and materials it needs and builds a car, when it gets sold, there's a VAT added to the car. And the person buying the car pays that. In most countries, the VAT tends to be somewhere around 20%. But here's the key difference between a VAT and a sales tax and why Trump is against it. If a product gets exported, it doesn't pay any VAT at all. So if Germany, for example, exports a car, it's going out the door with a 19% lower cost because Germany's VAT is 19%. Now, if that car is sold in the U.S., yeah, you have to pay a sales tax. But that car came into the U.S. with a 19% cost advantage. On the other hand, if a car is made in the U.S. and gets exported to Germany, not only does it carry all the U.S. sales taxes from the automaker buying materials and components, when it gets to Germany, it gets hit with a 19% VAT. The same goes if it goes to Japan or South Korea or wherever. So not only does a U.S. car have to pay a 10% import tariff in Germany, it also gets hit with a 19% value-added tax, which is a key reason why cars and trucks made in the U.S. cost so much more in other countries. Now, the U.S. could drop the sales tax and impose a VAT of its own, but that's probably never going to happen because each and every one of the 50 states would oppose that because the states are the ones that collect the sales tax. A VAT is collected by the national government, not individual states or provinces. And in the U.S., the states will not want to turn that over to the federal government. The long and the short of it is, a VAT or consumption tax definitely helps exports and hurts imports. And that's why Trump is going after the VAT and not just tariffs.